Has the Tarik Skubal dream finally died? Or is this just the calm before the storm that could still reshape the entire landscape of baseball? Let me tell you something about how these trade sagas actually work. For weeks, we've been watching Andrew Friedman orchestrate an aggressive offseason, making record-breaking signings and exploring blockbuster trades. Everyone assumed that if anyone could pull off the impossible and acquire Tarik Skubal, it would be the Dodgers. But sometimes, reality hits differently than expectations. According to analysis from Zach Presnell at Newsweek and predictions from Cody Williams at Fansided on Monday, December 22nd, 2025, the most likely outcome of the Tarik Skubal saga is the one nobody wants to hear. He's staying in Detroit. Welcome back to the channel, Dodger Nation. We got a cold dose of reality coming out of the winter meetings, and it's not the news we've been hoping for. After days of speculation suggesting the Dodgers were preparing a historic offer, the reporting now suggests that the Detroit Tigers have decided to hold their back-to-back Cy Young Award winner and fight for a playoff spot in 2026. This doesn't mean the door is completely closed, but it does mean the odds have shifted dramatically. Let's break down why Detroit is apparently holding firm, what this means to the Dodgers' plans, and what Plan B looks like if Skubal truly is off the table. First, let's understand the context that makes this decision so significant. Tarik Skubal isn't just a good pitcher. In this timeline, he's a back-to-back Cy Young Award winner. He won the award in 2024 and again in 2025. That's elite company. Players with that kind of resume don't get traded during their prime unless the organization is in complete collapse. And Detroit, apparently, has decided they're not in collapse. They're going to fight. Cody Williams' analysis is straightforward and logical. You don't rebuild by trading away the pillar of your franchise. It doesn't make sense from a competitive standpoint. If you're the Tigers and you have a back-to-back Cy Young winner, you use that as your foundation to build around. You try to win with him, not trade him away for prospects who might develop into something good years down the road. The Tigers seem to have made a philosophical decision that they're going to compete in 2026, and Skubal is their best chance to do that. The reporting also highlights a crucial detail that changes the entire calculus for potential acquiring teams. Skubal appears highly unlikely to sign an extension without testing free agency. That's the killer for the Dodgers. If they trade multiple elite prospects like Dalton Rushing or River Ryan for Skubal, they're essentially paying a king's ransom for 1 year service. After that 1 year, Skubal hits free agency and can sign with anyone, including a team that didn't give up anything to get him. That's the nightmare scenario for a team like the Dodgers. You give up your future for a rental. You use Skubal for 1 season. He pitches great, and then he leaves in free agency. Meanwhile, the prospect you traded away could have developed into stars. That's not a trade that even Andrew Friedman, with all his aggressive instincts, is willing to make. The reporting does acknowledge that the Dodgers are still in contact with Scott Harris, the Tigers GM. Cody Williams states, "I'm 100% certain that teams like the New York Mets, Los Angeles Dodgers are in contact with Scott Harris about the costs." So the conversations haven't stopped. The phone lines are still open, but the tone has shifted from deal imminent to probably not happening. The key phrase in the reporting is that this is a prediction rather than certainty. Predictions can be wrong. If the Tigers start the season poorly, if injuries hit their roster, if they decide mid-season that they need to rebuild, everything could change. But right now, in late December, the indication is that Detroit has hardened their stance and decided to hold Skubal. This creates an interesting dynamic for the Dodgers. They've already made massive moves this offseason. They signed Edwin Diaz to a record contract for a reliever. They've explored trades for Brandon Lowe, Stephen Kwan, and Jake Myers. They pursued Lars Nootbaar for his chemistry and culture fit. They built an incredibly talented roster, but they still want more. They still want to add a generational ace to their rotation. If Skubal truly is off the table, the Dodgers need to pivot to Plan B. The reporting suggests several options. Roki Sasaki is already on the roster, but the rotation could use more depth. Free agents like Max Fried or Corbin Burns become more attractive options if they're available because they cost money rather than prospects. The Dodgers can afford to spend money. They can't afford to give up more elite prospects after already committing so much organizational capital to this roster. Other trade options also come into play. Garrett Crochet from the White Sox or Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins become more realistic targets because they would cost less in prospects than Skubal. They're not back-to-back Cy Young winners, but they're young, controllable arms who could contribute to a championship rotation. The broader context of this situation is important to understand. The Dodgers have built a roster that's already elite. They have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They have Edwin Diaz closing games. They have depth and versatility throughout the lineup. Acquiring Skubal would have been a cherry on top, but the cake is already delicious without him. For Dodgers fans, the message from this reporting is, don't panic. The Skubal trade would have been incredible, but it's not essential. The Dodgers have already done enough to position themselves as overwhelming favorites to win the World Series. If they can't get Skubal, they'll find other ways to improve. They'll wait for the trade deadline in July. They'll pursue free agents. They'll make moves that make sense for their organization. The Tigers' decision to hold Skubal is also interesting from a competitive standpoint. Detroit has been rebuilding for years, and they finally developed a competitive roster. They have a young, talented lineup with players like Riley Green and other prospects developing. They have a back-to-back Cy Young winner on the mound. They believe they can compete in the American League Central. That's a legitimate position to take. The risk for Detroit is that if they hold Skubal and he gets injured, or if the team underperforms, they'll have made a mistake. They could have traded him for a massive haul of prospects that could help them rebuild for the future. But they're betting that Skubal stays healthy and helps them win games. That's a reasonable bet to make. The comparison to past situations is instructive. The Dodgers have been in similar positions before where they wanted a player badly, but the acquiring team decided to hold. Sometimes those players eventually get traded. Sometimes they don't. The key is having a plan B that's also strong enough to compete for a championship. The reporting's conclusion is measured and realistic. The Dodgers should proceed with caution. The Skubal trade would have been the cherry on top of an already excellent roster, but it's not essential. If Detroit decides to hold, the Dodgers have other options. They have the financial resources to pursue free agents. They have the organizational depth to make other trades. They have the talent to win championships, even without Skubal. This is actually a healthy reality check for Dodgers fans. For weeks, we've been dreaming about the possibility of having Ohtani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Skubal all on the same team. That would have been historic. But the reality is that the Dodgers already have an elite rotation. They already have an elite offense. They already have an elite bullpen. They're already positioned to win multiple championships. The timing of this reporting is also significant. It's coming right before the holidays, when many people in baseball are taking time off. If this prediction holds true, the Dodgers will have a few weeks to adjust their expectations and figure out their plan B. They won't panic. They'll make calculated moves that make sense for their organization. The Godfather offer that we discussed on Friday might not have been enough to convince Detroit. That tells you something about how much the Tigers value Skubal and how committed they are to competing in 2026. They're not interested in rebuilding. They're interested in winning. For the Dodgers, this is a moment to step back and appreciate what they've already accomplished this offseason. They've signed the best closer in baseball. They've explored multiple trade options. They've built a roster that's as talented as any in baseball history. If they can't get Skubal, that's okay. They're still going to be incredible. The reporting acknowledges that predictions can be wrong. If circumstances change, if the Tiger season goes poorly, if Scott Harris receives a truly irresistible offer, the situation could shift. But right now, the indication is that Skubal is staying in Detroit. So where does this leave us? The Tarik Skubal trade is probably not happening. The Detroit Tigers have apparently decided to hold their back-to-back Cy Young winner and compete in 2026. The Dodgers are still in contact with Detroit, but the odds have shifted dramatically. If Skubal truly is off the table, the Dodgers will pivot to other options. They'll pursue free agents, explore other trades, or stand pat with the already elite roster they've built. This is a moment of clarity for Dodgers fans. You don't need Tarik Skubal to win a championship. You already have everything you need. Skubal would have been nice. Skubal would have been historic. But the Dodgers are going to be just fine without him. All right, Dodger Nation. That's the full breakdown on the Tarik Skubal prediction and what it means for the rest of the offseason. What do you think? Is this the end of the Skubal dream? Or do you think circumstances could still change? Should the Dodgers pursue other pitching options? Or should they be satisfied with their current rotation? And how confident are you that the Dodgers can win a championship without Skubal? Drop your thoughts in the comment below. If this analysis helped you understand the situation, hit that like button and let's keep the conversation going. The offseason is reaching its conclusion, and we're going to be here covering every development. Let's go Dodgers.